My name is Claire Albaum, and I'm the training manager for micromanagement. And we have a very special guest today doing our SAP Access. So I want to introduce you to Thomas Michael. He's actually the CEO of micromanagement. So this is a unique instance. Generally, we have Nicole or Sarah doing our
to manage any
access
team and
walkthrough.
any.
So you are in for a treat today. So we want our whole hour today. If we have it, it may be shorter than that. So we might let you off a bit early, but we want it to be very interactive. So type in your questions. I can unmute you. If you raise your hand, that's the easiest if you want to ask a question. So you have the CEO here at your disposal. So definitely take advantage of this time, ask questions, and I will let you go from here. So thank you, Thomas, for doing this for us today.
Howdy, everyone. I just found out this morning that I had to do this session. Normally we have, better people doing this, but life is full of disappointments. And, some people were out today in the office, so that's why I get to do this. Of course, I didn't have any time to rehearse or go through the slides ahead of time, so this is going to be a highly interactive session today. And I see the attendees joining now. That's awesome. While we still, do the intros, do me a favor, type in what you want to get out of this session. I don't necessarily want to go through all the slides we have. I actually want to make sure I answer your questions. So just go ahead and tell me, what are you looking for? What are you looking to get out of this session? And I'll make sure to cover that. And also any question you have, anything you want me to show you or discuss or at least mention, I'm happy to do that. And while you guys type, I'll give you a little background about myself. So I've been an SAP consultant for over 25 years. I started in the early 90s on release R3 version 2.1. So that's a long time ago. I've always specialized in the asset accounting area, so that's my field of expertise. As with everything else in SAP, it's a very broad system. You can't possibly know everything about the system. Most people have a tendency to focus on one very specific area. Over my last 2 decades, I've met a few people that are really good at a lot of things, but that's not common. Typically, you would meet people that are very, very good at a module or a sliver of SAP. Takes a long time to learn SAP. It's very complex, complicated. It's not an easy thing to understand. So if you're new to SAP, don't despair if you don't just get it. It takes years to master it. Hey Torrance, thanks for joining. Hey Charles, thank you. Go ahead, type your questions into the chat box, please. Or if you don't want to type, that's okay too. Click on that raise hand button, and we can unmute you, and then we can actually talk like human beings.
I would say that's easiest if you feel comfy with that. If you just raise your hand, I can unmute your mic, and then you can ask your questions right that way.
Well, let me just show you the first slide here. So this whole session is meant for people that are either new to SAP. New to SAP. Oh, that's not me. Nicole is normally the one that does this for us. Claire and Sarah. Claire's here. Sarah's out today, so that's why I'm here. So this session is really for people that are new to SAP, that have just gotten access to an SAP system, either from us or from work, for example, or people that are thinking about getting live access to an SAP system. And you might be wondering, is that a good idea? Do I need this? What can I do with it? How do I get started? So I'll try to address those questions today. I'm going to keep it very basic for absolute SAP beginners, unless you tell me in the chat box that you want me to cover other stuff, or you already know the basics and we want to skip over that. Again, I want to keep this very interactive. I don't like these sessions where one person speaks and the rest has to listen. So the more you put into this, the more you get out of this session. So we offer SAP access to a bunch of different systems right on our website, and you may or may not have purchased a subscription already. If you're wondering what can you actually do with that, why would you want to get access to an SAP system? These are the typical things that you would get a subscription for. So you want to work in a system that allows you to access the configuration of the system. So you can create your own config, or it has basic config already in the system, and you can look at that. So all of our systems have that, right? All our systems come with basic standard SAP configuration and standard master data and transactional data, so that there's something in there already that you can start working with. So you can access configuration. You can also access master data, and master data in SAP are things like customer master records or vendor master records or GL accounts or cost centers or material master records. So all of these already exist in our SAP system. You can work with what's out there, or you can even create your own master records. That's totally okay. And we actually encourage you to do that. And then same with transactional data. Transactional data are things like invoices, payments, purchase orders, right? Any kind of transaction that you would record in the system. Same thing, those exist in SAP too. There's dozens, if not hundreds of those for each certain area. And you can, of course, create your own transactions too. That's what you can do with a regular subscription. If you have an ABAP subscription or a developer's subscription, you can also do this thing here in the middle, the ABAP development. So if you want to if you're a developer or a technical person, and you want to write your own ABAP code or your ABAP programs, or you want to create custom tables, custom data elements, you can do that in our system too, but you need to have this ABAP development add-on or subscription. Okay, does that make sense so far? Everyone still with me? If I'm going too fast, tell me. If I'm going too slow, tell me. Now, just punch it into that chat box. I'm trying to keep an eye on it while I present. All of you are in a shared system. That means you're not the only person in that system. There's other people in there too. So be mindful of that. All right. So you don't want to mess with other people's stuff. All right. So that's why we always tell people what's out there in the system is great for you to look at, but you shouldn't change it or delete it, right? Because somebody else might have set that up this way. So create your own data, create your own configuration, create your own master records, your own transactions, right? Because we want to all share in the system and we don't want to break anything. If for whatever reason you don't want to share, that's totally okay too, then you can get your own private SAP system. So we offer private SAP clients. That means you're the only one in that client, or we can even give you your own system with multiple clients. If you're interested in that, just let us know, and we can give you more details about it. Costs more, of course, but those are your own private systems. First things first. So how do you log into an SAP system? Right? There's 3 different ways to do that. The most common way is called the SAP GUI, and I'll show you mine right here. This is called the SAP GUI. Some people call it the SAP Logon. It's a program that you install on your computer. It's pretty big. It takes a little while to download and install. But with that program, this SAP GUI program, you can access any SAP system, not just ours, any system, right? All this stuff that you see here in my GUI, I'm going to highlight. These are all the different systems I have access to. When you install the GUI on your computer, this will all be blank. There won't be anything there, right? You have to add a system to this GUI. It's very easy. You simply click on this new icon and you say, I want to create a new connection. You get this pop up, and then you put the connection parameters or connection information for the system in here. Now, when you subscribe to SAP Access with us, we give you these connection details. It's basically just a server IP address, another IP address for the router. It's very easy to set this up. And once it's set up, and it shows up as a line item right here in this GUI. And then log in, all you do is you double click the system, and there it is, brings you to the login screen. And then you can log into that system. Now that's the most common way to log in to an SAP system. It's also the most, it's the fastest way to log into SAP, I think. But it's not the only way. There's two other options, and I'll show you those two. The downside, of course, with the GUI is you have to download and install the GUI onto your computer. Sometimes people don't want to do this, or they can't do it because it's a work computer and they can't just install something. Totally understand. In that case, you can use, not that one, you can use what's called the web GUI, or sometimes called the HTML GUI. All it is it's a URL we will give you, or your system administrator will give you, and you just open that URL in a browser. So I'm in Google Chrome right now, but this also works with Microsoft Edge, for example. And you simply go to this URL, and you get to this type of login screen. Looks a little different, but same thing. I just type in my information, log in, and look at this. I'm logged in to SAP through the web GUI now. Now, the good thing about this is I didn't have to install anything, right? I just use any browser, I type in the URL, and I can log in. So that's great. However, the downside is, personally, I find the web GUI is a little slower than the regular GUI. And when you know what you're doing, you know, you want to work fast. And there's a few things that don't work as well in the web GUI. Anything that has to do with graphics or charts is not rendered as well here. So pros and cons to both sides. So again, this is the regular GUI. Notice that it's the window by itself like this. And this is web GUI. So those are the two. The third option is similar to the regular GUI, this thing. If you're on a Mac computer, you can't install this SAP GUI for Windows. Doesn't work. For Mac computers, there's a special one called the SAP Java GUI. So it looks a little different, but it works the exact same way. You download the Java GUI onto your Mac computer, you install it, you add a system here, and then you log in. So those are the three options for you to log into a system. That's it.
And I'll put a little plug in for your course. I know this helped me a ton when we were doing live classes, and even when I downloaded the GUI on my computer. We have a free course that Thomas actually made on installing the SAP GUI. On the site, you go to micromanagement, so it's easy, very easy to install it, and he walks you through it. So if anyone who's watching has not installed it yet, I highly recommend taking the course.
Thanks for the plug, Claire. Yes, so this course, I think it's not even an hour. It's free, so anybody can enroll in it. And again, this is not just our GUI. It's just the standard SAP GUI. If you want to watch me go through it step by step, simply take this course. All right, so that's it. Now we're logged into SAP, and let me log in with my credentials here. So now I'm logged into the web GUI, and I'm also logged into the regular GUI right here. Okay. And let me see what we have in the slides as next. So we covered that, how to log into SAP and all this. All right, so now let me show you a few things about the SAP window. Very first thing that you should pay attention to when you log in is what menu are you displaying here on the left? Notice mine says the SAP menu, but when you log in, maybe it also says user menu, right? These are two very, very different things, and we get a lot of help desk tickets where people say, I can't find the such and such thing in the menu. It's not there. 99 out of 100 times is because you're looking at the user menu, not the SAP menu. The user menu is something that has been set up for you by your system administrator based on your job role. All right, so if you're a fixed asset accountant, you will have things on your user menu that pertain to that particular role, and you will not see other stuff that has nothing to do with your job. Right, so as a fixed asset accountant, you have nothing to do with creating vendor masters or customer masters or invoices. So those things won't be on the menu. Okay, so if you want to see the standard SAP menu that shows everything, always make sure you click this little button here, SAP menu, and make sure it actually says SAP menu right here. Close my favorites. All right. So when it says SAP menu here, that is the entire SAP end user menu with all the modules, right? Nothing hidden. Okay. Now, if you work with SAP for a little bit, you know this menu, it doesn't look right now, but if you start opening this up, it's humongous, right? There's one level after another level after another level. So it's really, really big. So for example, if I go into the accounting area and then financial accounting, so that's the FI module, right? Financial accounting. And then you see all the components underneath the financial accounting module. So GL, accounts receivable, accounts payable, fixed assets. This little section, fixed assets, that's all I did for 20 years, right? So it tells you how specialized you can be in SAP and make a career out of it. Right? I know nothing about this other stuff, or very little, I should say. I'm an expert in fixed assets. Right? That's what I focused on. So then you just keep drilling down more and more and more until you get to this. Notice how the icon changed. There was always a folder, another folder, and then another folder. And then suddenly you get to, I don't even know what this is, an octagon, or that indicates that you're now looking at a transaction. So this is something that you can actually execute, whereas the folders you can just open and close. So for example, I can display an asset master record simply by double clicking that transaction. If I know what the number is, I can type it in, but I don't, so I'm going to have to search for it. And for example, here's an asset master record, fills in all these numbers for me. And if I click enter, I go into that asset master record and I can see the information for it. Right? That works with all the other master records too. I could have done a customer master, a vendor master, a material master, anything like this, as long as you have authorization to do so. Okay? If you ever try to get somewhere, but then you get an error message at the bottom here in the status bar, it says you're not authorized to do this. That means you're missing authorization to go into this. Typically in our SAP systems, you won't see that very often because we give you access to just about everything in SAP. All right, with our access, you can access all of the configuration. You can access all of the end user transactions for master data, transactional data, reporting. The only thing that we do restrict is access to system administration transactions, right? Anything that could impact the stability of the system or impact other subscribers of the system, we're not going to let you do that because we all want these systems to be stable, of course. Makes sense, right? We're also not going to allow you to go into user maintenance, so where you can reset other users' passwords or change their authorization profile. That wouldn't be nice, so we don't allow that. But everything else you have access to. Mm-hmm. Now, does that make sense so far? And are we on the right track? Any questions from anybody?
Or just raise your hand.
Raise your hand. If not, I'll keep talking. I'll keep going.
I will. This is a question that I know we get a lot from other students. Is if you're completely new to SAP, should you take training first, or should you enroll in courses at the same time as getting a system? So I know sometimes it's like the cart before the horse. What would you suggest?
That's a very good question. And Torrance, we see your hand. We'll chat in just a second. Let me answer this one question real quick. So obviously I'm biased. We sell SAP training courses and we sell SAP Access. So I'll try to give you an honest answer based on my experience as an SAP consultant. SAP is a difficult system to learn. It's not self-explanatory at all. So you need some sort of guidance, right? So we have people that say, I can figure this out. Let me just log in and figure it out. Most of those cancel shortly thereafter in frustration because it's hard to figure that out. My personal recommendation would always be take training and access hand in hand. Right, so you take some courses, you learn something in SAP, then log into SAP and try that out, practice this, see if you can do this, see if you understand how to do this, play around with the system. Obviously that requires you to pay for training and pay for access. If your budget is limited, then start with a training. That's what I would do. Not the other way around. I would not start with SAP Access and try to figure it out. You get frustrated very quickly, I think.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. And Torrance, I will, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unmute you.
Hi, Torrance. I don't know if you can, well, I know you can hear me, but I don't know if you can talk. Or do I have to do that, Claire? No, it says.
Yeah.
Okay. How about now?
Oh, there
Can
you
you
go.
hear me?
Loud and clear. Howdy.
Okay. Hey, great. So I was just I just had a few questions about the curriculum. I was just I've been email recipient of micromanagement for a long time, and I just kind of began to ignore the emails because I didn't see a curriculum. But I clicked on it this one time and saw a full-fledged curriculum that outlines the process. And I know firsthand what you're saying about trying to do it on your own is almost virtually impossible. So you do need step-by-step guidance. And I see that there's a curriculum that you guys offer. The one that I'm most interested in is the FI consultant. I have a little bit of yeah, it's really huge. But I have a little bit of exposure to SAP with regards to the ECC platform. I'm trying to learn and master the S4 HANA, and I know firsthand that you need guidance and you need a structured path to follow. And I like the fact that you guys offer that. And I think you answered the question that I was about to ask, whether or not the curriculum comes with access to the server. And I think you said that that's two separate parts.
Correct. Yeah, we keep it separate for actually a very good reason, because about half of our subscribers to training already have access to SAP at work. So they'd be like, yeah, I don't need this, right? So that's why we always keep it separate. And also to keep the costs low, of course, right? Not everybody can afford both at the same time, and we get that.
Okay. So my next question would be, with the curriculums, do you have like step-by-step manuals that can be downloaded and read, or maybe even printed? Because I've attended classes online where they would let you download the manuals, but you weren't able to print. And because I'm dyslexic and half-ass blind, I needed to kind of print mine. So do you have manuals that you can print, and do you have a forum set up where students can collaborate with one another to be able to map through some of the ambiguities of the content?
Yes and no. So what we have is, you call them curriculums, we call them learning path.
Okay.
So when you go to the website, you're on the SAP courses, here's the learning path. So these are predefined learning paths for the most common SAP jobs. Now, if you want to be an FI consultant, or if you want to be a purchasing agent or a GL accountant, doesn't matter. We have sat down and gone through all of our 500 courses and picked the ones where we said, yeah, for that job, you really need to know this one, and this one. But before you can take these 3, you actually need to make sure that you have these prerequisites or fundamental SAP skills. So let me just go into one. Let me see if I find the finance consultant. That's the one you mentioned, right? I think that's one of the biggest one you picked. So
yes, at the very bottom towards the end.
Takes a while. You'll see that all of these learning paths are split into 3 sections actually. But the most important ones are the fundamental skills, where we say this is what you need to know to get to the next level. So this is the absolute basics that you have to start with. These are in order actually of how you should take them. So there is rhyme and reason behind this. And once you're done with that, then you go to the core curriculum of your learning path. And this is, again, this is a very, very big one. They're not all like that, right? So don't, like for everyone else, don't get discouraged when you see that. And then when you complete all of that, you get your certification from us. And then if you have an appetite for more training, you expand your skills to the next level beyond the finance module, right? Some of these courses are simulation courses, right? So they look like you're logged into SAP, but you're not. You're in a simulated environment, and you have to fill out the fields and you have to click on the buttons just like you would if you were logged into SAP or if you were at your real job. All of these simulation courses have handouts that you can download and print, PDF handouts.
Okay.
All right. And they also, every one of these simulation courses has a final formal exam. So they're kind of hard actually to pass. That's by design, right? When we give your certification, we actually mean that. We want it to be meaningful and have some value in the market. So all of these simulation courses, you know, there's a formal exam at the end. And then you see the other courses are instructor-led courses. Now, instructor-led courses don't always have a handout. That's really up to the instructor for them to decide what they want to include. Many include their slides, some don't. Many include additional downloads or handouts or cheat sheets, but that varies from course to course. And that was a super long answer to your question. Sorry.
Okay, so the simulations, so you said that the simulations have printouts and PDF documents that can be printed out and what have you, but the simulations are just that. They walk you through the step-by-step process and then give you a task or an assignment at the end that you actually configure, I guess?
It's an exam, actually, yeah. So basically, instead of me walking you through the system right here, the simulation courses do that, right? They walk you through the transactions. They make you, for example, create an asset master record step by step, you know, and the way we're explaining, all right, this is what the asset class field is used for. This is what the company code means, right? This is what a depreciation key does. So that's how these simulation courses work. They're very hands-on. So it's like true learning by doing, if you will.
Sure, I got you. So how viable is the certification at the end with other companies and corporations? Is that does that hold a lot of weight?
Yes. So I used to work for SAP a long time ago. So SAP, of course, has their own certification process and exams, and they charge extra fees for it. We don't do that. And we have our own certification program. All right, so we have nothing to do with SAP's. Ours is totally separate. It's based on our training courses. And I always said that if we do this, I want it to mean something. Right, so that's why when you take our exams, first time you take one, you're probably go like, "Damn you, Tom, these are too hard." And they're hard for a reason, right? We want you to really know this. You have to pass with an 80%, not 70, as you see with other exams. Our threshold is 80%. Our failure rate, so people taking the exam for the first time, is over 40%. So 4 out of 10 people fail the exams on the first attempt, but then over 90% pass on the subsequent. attempts. So that shows you that, okay, they're hard, and you do need to study for this, and you do need to practice, and you need to know this stuff. You cannot wing your way through these things.
Okay.
And of course, so having certification, not mandatory to get an SAP job in the world, right? There's plenty of people that are not certified, and they're plenty good at SAP. But it certainly helps, right? And if there's a company wanting to hire 2 people and they're the same, but one person has a certification, the other doesn't, I would think they would tend to lean towards the certified person.
Okay. So how long would you say, this is the last question, how long would the FI consultant curriculum take typically to complete? And then again, do you have some sort of collaboration device for other students?
Yeah, sorry, I totally forgot about this. And the answer there is yes. We're actually really excited about it. So you see the total curriculum for the FI consultant is shown right here, 148 hours, 158 hours. That's straight learning, right? So people go like, oh, okay, so that's just 4 weeks of straight up learning, right? So 160 hours would be a month. Realistically, no, this takes longer, right? Realistically, you cannot study 8 hours a day and remember everything. So it really depends on you. How much time can you devote to this? Can you do 2 hours a day? Can you do 4 hours a day? When we teach live classes, and I taught a lot of live classes for SAP too way back then, they typically, when you take out the coffee break and the cookie break and the lunch break and the chatty break, right? You're down to about 6 hours of instructions per day. And that's kind of where most people max out. And that's a lot already. And now think about 6 hours a day, day after day after day after day, and you constantly learn something new. It's tough. So this takes a long time. My gut feeling tells me if you want to be good at this, it probably takes you 2 months to complete and understand and remember all that stuff. And to answer the other question, and that's important to us, you're never alone, right? It's not like, oh my God, it's just me in my bedroom in front of my computer learning this all by myself. Not at all. There's tens of thousands of other students, and if you feel like it, you can chat with all of them by going to our community chat here in the upper right? Right? So this is where people interact with each other. This is where it works like Facebook or Instagram, if you will. You just post something, you interact with people, say, hey, I have a question about this one thing, or can somebody help me with this, or what's your opinion on this and that? Right? This is the community chat, but we also have a course Q&A section. So if you have a very specific question about a very specific course, and you even want to ask the instructor a question, you can do that right in the course. You can post your question to the course, the instructor gets a notification, all the other students get a notification, and they can all answer your question right there.
Wonderful. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for asking, Lawrence. We're going to mute you again, but if you have another thing, just raise your hand again.
Sure, will do. Thanks.
Cool. All right. What about anyone else? Any more questions, Claire? Otherwise, we'll just mosey on.
Yeah, not that I see right now. If we have any, I will interject. But yeah, I think we're good to. No, it was good. Thank you, Torrance, for all your questions. That was good, and highlighting the learning paths as well. I feel like learning paths are a very good thing for students to know about, and the community chat.
Yes, we like that. All right, let's see. So according to the slides, let's see what's interesting here. SAP menu, yeah, we can talk about this, some transactions. All right, well, let me do this. Claire, do people get a copy of these slides?
We can. I'm happy to send them out. Generally, we just have everyone go to our YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel has a plethora of materials as well. There's a lot of free content on there. So I definitely recommend everyone going. You can look at we have these every other month is how we've done them in the past. So for the transactions that we have in here, codes that people need to go back and access, they can just watch the YouTube video, pause it, type in that transaction. But I am happy, especially because it's only the two of you today, I can send these slides over easily so that you have the information and you can go through these as well.
So if you want to see the good walkthroughs, the professional walkthroughs, the rehearsed ones, go to the YouTube channel. That's all I heard. All right. And for everyone that's in this hot mess, we'll send you a copy of the slides.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I want to do this is I know you guys, when you create these slides, there's some exercises in there. All right. So for example, how do you find material master records in the system? Right. And I want everyone to have these slides so that they see these exercises and can practice that in their own system. I'll just show you one, just because it's fun. So for example, here's an exercise, materials or products, if you will. They're master records in SAP in the MM module, materials management module. And the question is, well, how do you find them? How can I see a list of all of them? And you can go to transaction MM60 to see that. Now, you could go through this really long menu and just drill into it. Right, it takes forever. Or the more you work with SAP, the more you're going to get familiar with these shortcut transaction codes. So, and then you see this field top left here, that's the command field. You can type in a transaction code right here, shortcut code. So you don't have to step through the menu because that takes way too long. Instead, you can simply type in /n for new transaction, /n, and then the transaction code. So we just saw MM60 on this slide. Right, so /n for new transaction code, and then MM60 happens to be the transaction code for the materialist. And see, here we are, materialist, that's the report. Now, question, of course, always is, well, how do I know what transaction code each one of these transactions is? And that's easy to see top right. See this status bar here on top, or the info section, they call it? You can open and close this. So notice this little triangle here. This will open and close this section. And then I can click on this, and I see all these different options. So, for example, I can make the info section show me what system I'm logged in. That can be useful if you log into multiple different systems all the time. Or I can make it show me my user ID is logged in, or what server I'm in, blah, blah. Or most useful, I think, is I can make it show me the transaction code that I'm in. So now I know, oh, I am in MM60. That's how you learn and remember these transaction codes. In the real world, once you start working with SAP and you have a very specific job role, there is maybe 20, 30 transaction codes that you'll run on an ongoing basis. Every day, every week, it becomes repetitive as far as what transactions you run. So that's how you know which ones to learn, which ones to remember. And that will be your sphere. Turns, if you want to be an FI consultant, it's a lot more than 30 transactions, of course. It's a handful, right? Me having been an asset accounting consultant, it was probably 20, 30 on the end user side, and then another 20, 30 on the configuration side that I remembered on an ongoing basis because I used them so much. Right? But yeah, so it's a good idea to start remembering and start learning these transaction codes, because the more you know about SAP, the more people will talk about using transaction codes. Nobody will tell you, oh, go to the menu here, 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 then here, and then drill down into this. That just takes too long. Anyway, so we just wanted to see a list of material master records. This is the selection screen. I can limit this now to certain materials, or maybe a certain plan. For example, if I work in plan 1710 in Los Angeles, I could pick that. And then I can execute this report. And it gives me a list of all the materials that are in plan 1710. Here's a list of all this stuff. So remember what I said earlier when we started, that all of our systems have basic configuration data, basic master data, basic transactions. It's already there. So you can see here's probably hundreds of material master records in the system that you can use to practice or to look at. Okay. Then you can double click something. It's asking, what do you want to see? Well, I want to see the basic data for this material. Say okay. And then it shows me what this is. So apparently this is some sort of automobile. It weighs 1,000 kilos. And I can see all the details for that material master record. And top left is how you back out of this system. Right? That's always the same, no matter where you are in the system. That's how you navigate. One thing I should mention actually is we are logged into an S4 HANA 2020 system. This is the newest system that SAP has available. They'll come out with a new one at the end of this year, but right now this is the newest there is, S4 HANA 2020. Now, having said that, let's talk a little bit about those two releases. That's the newest release, but that's not the most common release or the most used or widely used release. Most companies in the world are still on the previous release called ECC 6. Sometimes you see ERP 6, same thing. That's the release that most companies are still on. SAP has announced that they will support ECC 6 until, I think it's 2027 or 2028. They keep pushing out that deadline. But right now, they're saying come 2027 or 2028, support for that release will stop, which means companies have another 6-7 years to plan and execute their upgrade to S4 HANA. Now, and again, I've been an SAP consultant for 20 years. I've been in a lot of upgrade projects over the years. These are not simple upgrades like you upgrade something on your computer. You know, that's not how it works. These are massive, long-term engagements. Could be a year, 2 years, 3 years to upgrade from one SAP release to the next. That shows you how complex these SAP systems are and how massive these projects are. So I think one question, Claire, that we get quite a bit or that people wonder about is, well, if I'm new to SAP, what should I learn? Should I learn ECC 6 or should I learn S4 HANA? All right.
Yeah, very common question.
And there's no clean-cut answer to that. You know, again, right now, most companies use ECC 6. So you could say, well, of course you should learn ECC 6 if you want to get a job right now working for one of those companies. On the other hand, you know, all of these companies will have to upgrade to S4 HANA in the next few years. So then I'm thinking, well, then why would I learn some old software? Why don't I just learn S4 HANA? Right? And that is just as valid an answer as the one before. If it were me and if I were to start out brand new right now, I would probably learn S4 HANA, but default, that's what I would study and work on. And you can kind of like backtrack into ECC. It's not critically different. The screens look different, navigation's a little different. Let me just, for the fun of it, show you guys what ECC 6 looks like. So
and Nicole, in our live classes, she would say that ECC and S4, they have kind of the same foundation like in a house, but S4 is just remodeled and is more modern and a little bit more beautiful.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way of explaining that. So notice the subtle differences, right? So I'm logged into ECC 6 now. First impression is like, wait, that's the same thing, right? But is it? It's not. It's slightly different. You see different icons, different navigations. You might see different options in the menu that might exist in one system, but they're not there in the other system, right? So some of the screens might have changed where, well, this field used to be over here in the upper right, but now it's in the lower left. So those are some of the navigational challenge you'll realize, but they're not hard to overcome, right? So it's totally okay. Learn S4 HANA, and then when you log into an ECC system, you realize, oh no, wait, yeah, this button is now on the other end, right? So I hope that makes sense if you were wondering about that part. All right, back to S4 now. And when we send you the slides, there's a few other exercises in there just to show you what you can do in the system. Go through them, play around with this. I want to mention one other thing. Sooner or later, this is a guarantee. Sooner or later, you will try to do something in SAP and you will get an error message. All right. So we talked about authorization errors before. All right. So it might say something like, you're not authorized to do that. Okay. So that's pretty clear. We understand what's wrong here. That just means the system administrator has not given you permission to run that transaction. That might be for a very good reason. It might be a dangerous transaction that could impact the stability of the system. All right. Or it might just be a transaction that the system administrator forgot to include in your profile. There's over 100,000 transactions in the SAP system. So it can absolutely happen that one fell through the cracks or it's a new transaction. So that's why it's not part of your profile. So if you ever have that situation where it says you're not authorized and you're in our system, open a help desk ticket and tell us. Say, hey, I'm trying to do this one thing and it tells me I'm not authorized. Can you give me that authorization? If there's no harm to giving you that authorization, we'll absolutely do that. However, if there's something that, it's like, no, this, you can impact other subscribers if he gave you that, or the system stability or reliability, then we don't do that, of course. But you can always ask, right? But I'm not talking about authorization errors. I'm talking about you're trying to do something in the system, I don't know, purchasing. Maybe you want to create a purchase order and you're typing away and you're trying to save it, and suddenly it says that you can't do it because whatever, the material master is not active, or the cost center is wrong, or something. That will happen, guaranteed. And then, of course, the question is, well, now what do I do? All right. So I just told you that there's 100,000 transaction codes in SAP. Guess how many error messages are in SAP? Any guesses? Claire, you know, right? How many are in the system?
What is it? What? I wanted at first to be like a billion, but there's over a million. There must be a ton.
There's about a million error messages in SAP in each language. All right, so a million English error messages, a million French, Spanish, German, all that. So if you ever get an error message, every message has a message code attached to it, right? And it's typically some letters and some numbers, right? This message code is important. Always, when you get an error message, you get it at the bottom here. It says so and so. You can't create this purchase order. Always double click that, right? And then you see the message code, and sometimes it tells you why you're getting that error message or what you need to do to fix it. It doesn't always do that, but many times it does, right? Or if you just have the message code, but you're not in a system, you can always go to our website. I wanted to show you this. we have an error message lookup tool, right? So you can put in an error code, for example, AA729. That's a message code. AA is the message class, and 729 is the message number. All right, you just type that in and you go search. And then we chug through 1 million records to see if we can find something about this. And you see right here, AA729. Not all documents in the last posting run were posted. That's a message, fairly common that you get in asset accounting. If you click that, we will show you the details of that error message, and if available, we'll also show you how to fix this. And first of all, why did it happen, and how do you fix this? Right? So it tells you what causes this issue, what's the system response, and how do you fix this thing. Right? So very, very useful. So don't despair when you get an error message. Look it up, right? Come to our website, look it up, see if there's some suggestion on how to fix this. Now, again, not all messages have that. So sometimes you go in here and it says SAP considers this a self-explanatory message. So that's the reason why they didn't provide any further information. And sometimes I agree. Many times I don't. But this is how you need to approach error messages in the system. It's part of the learning journey in SAP. Torrance, if you want to be an FI consultant, you're going to have that every day. Your clients will come to you and says, oh my God, I tried to do this and I get this error message. And you as an FI consultant, you need to understand, all right, why are you getting this error message? What does it mean? And I've seen it before, and here's how you fix it. So that will become part of your job to deal with error messages and trying to fix this and solve them.
I think this is a very handy tool.
Yes, very handy. And it's amazing. I did not know or realize that there's 1 million error messages in the system. All right. What else, internet people? Any other questions? Otherwise, I think I'm kind of towards the end of this whole presentation, right? So we talked about error messages. That's good. Of course, always, you always Google it too, right? So Google knows everything. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes you find really good answers too. Questions. Here are the exercises. Those are the those slides that I want to get you so that you can practice these exercises in your own system or in our system. We talked about this. A couple of other useful links. All right. Good. We're good with all of this. All right. Questions while we're logged into the system.
And I'll just say before we hang up that I'll save those files as PDFs and then just email them over to you, Charles and Torrance. So I'll get those over to you shortly.
Cool. Finished 6 minutes early.
I know you are efficient.
That's the German in me. Start on time, end on time.
No, it was great. And Torrance, thank you for your questions. And I think we brought up a lot of parts of the website we haven't necessarily looked at in other access walkthroughs. So you were rocking, Thomas.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining. If you want to join another one, a better one, sign up for the next one. We do these every 2 months, right, Claire?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, every other month. You'll see a pop-up on the website, so it's easy to register. And then if you felt like you wanted to watch through some other archives, see different questions asked, they're all on the YouTube channel, as we had said. Oh, Torrance's hand is raised. Let me unmute you. There you go.
I think you muted me. Torrance, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so is there a discount for, I think, attending this this meeting? There's a discount for the purchase of the program, correct?
Damn, I did not know that. Probably. Sarah in our office would know that. She manages, unless you know, Claire.
I don't know the specifics. I know Sarah will be back tomorrow. She's on our live chat, so I would suggest, just jump on the website. Sarah's generally the person behind the live chat, and then we can probably work something out.
We'll make one up, right? We'll make one up.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you guys.
All righty. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Thomas.